Without further ado, Sandra, please say hello and start your presentation.
Thank you so much, John, for this incredible introduction. I couldn't do it better. You gave a pretty good highlight. And I want to say thank you to Brad. I have the honor and the pleasure to be participating in Brad conferences. And I always agree to present in these conferences because I know the quality that Brad brings to the table and how very well organized these conferences are. So as John say, I am going to be talking about the endocannabinoid system. I will be sharing my screen right now. So I think John already did a very thoroughly introduction of myself, so I'm not going to bore you with more details of who I am. I am a co-founder of Medican IPS, Medical Cannabis Clinics in Colombia. We are very excited and very delighted because as many of you know, medical cannabis was legalized in Colombia 4 years ago. The first years were very hard, very slow to get things done, but finally, between last year and this year, I think medical cannabis is moving faster in Colombia, and I see a very bright future. And this future that I see for me is focused on behalf of the patients, because through the clinics, I can see more and more patients coming to our consultations and seeing patients from all different cities from Colombia, and even doctors that want to belong to our network of Medican IPS. So I do see that all these things that we've been doing for all these years, you as industry, scientists, doctors, different type of professions, all these things that we are building all these years are showing the profits and the benefits on behalf of the patients. At the end, all the things that we do, and industry and doctors, all this medical cannabis industry revolves in a very, very big part on the patients. Everything that we are creating, standards of cultivation, standards of extraction, standards of manufacturing, and good clinical practices, everything is because of the patients, because we want to help patients and we want to give them medicine. Medical cannabis is medicine, we all know that, and we want to provide for them the best treatments and the best care, because there is millions of patients all over the world that need this medicine. So this is where I feel so passionate about what we're doing, because we're bringing well-being, we're bringing comfort to the patients, to families, we're improving their quality of life, and we are helping lots of families and patients. So going straight to the point, what is the role of the endocannabinoid system in health? Many of you will know, and I'm going to try to do this lecture not too complicated. I know most of you have knowledge about the endocannabinoid system, but we cannot forget that it is because of the endocannabinoid system that doctors and scientists are involved in this. Because if it weren't for this, we wouldn't care that much about the medical cannabis. It's because we found, and I talk about myself, that there is an endocannabinoid system in our bodies, is that it makes sense to use the cannabinoids to treat different pathologies, and even to try to balance our own endocannabinoid system in order to achieve this homeostasis and balance that we need. So we have in here different systems. We have the skeletal system, respiratory system, muscular system, digestive system, and of course we have endocannabinoid system. This system is extremely important in balancing the most essential functions on the body. For example, the sleep-wake cycle, appetite regulation, immune system function, and the cannabinoids are chemicals that affect the body, as we were talking. we're going to discuss in depth about the different endocannabinoids and the phytocannabinoids. We know that the plant contains more than 150 different types of cannabinoids, and they are found naturally in many foods you eat and even naturally produced in your own body. They are the endocannabinoids. So we're seeing here how the endocannabinoid provides balance and homeostasis through the regulation of pain, appetite, sensation, inflammation, mood, energy, and I can go on and on. I'm going to go a little bit on the history of cannabis because for talking about the endocannabinoid system, I will say first that we know the medical cannabis and cannabis is being used even 2,700 years before Christ. It's been used widely in Chinese medicine, Oriental medicine, and was brought to the Occidental medicine in 1839 by Dr. William O'Shaughnessy. And we saw how before the Marijuana Tax Act, we used to have medical cannabis preparations being sold over the counter all over the world. And even we have different medical textbooks that they were listing medical cannabis as one of the important treatments back in that era. And we also have more than, in the 20th century, we have more than over 200 papers talking about the benefits of medical cannabis. Now going to the endocannabinoid system, it's important to highlight in 1964, Professor Raphael Mechoulam discovered the molecule of THC. Then in 1988, William Devane discovered the receptors, CB1. So that was a little bit of a history. Talking about Professor Mechoulam, you may all be aware that he turned 90 years this year. Extremely remarkable scientist. I had the opportunity to spend time with him in Israel. I sat with him for an entire morning, and he was absolutely a smart, sharp, and very patient person. And very recently, he was awarded with the Harvey Prize. And this is an award that each year give for an outstanding achievement for including science, technology, and human health. So this is a big achievement, and I think for him, I think he deserves the Nobel Prize. And everybody knows that he discovered the THC molecule, but he's been doing and producing a very big amount of research all these years. We have Professor Lumir Hanus, very smart scientist who actually was the one who isolated with William Devane, another American pharmacologist, the endocannabinoid called anandamide. They call it anandamide after the Sanskrit word joy or bliss. This is one of our very important endocannabinoids that we produce. It's very important to point the endocannabinoid system and disease. The endocannabinoid system is designed to respond to your external environment and regulate your internal, mental, physical, and emotional environment. We need to understand both disease and the way cannabinoids work when formulated together. Better understand the disease being treated and to match the appropriate cannabinoid profiles and preparations. This is very important, and I'm going to stop a few seconds in here because we need to remember as doctors that we are not treating a diagnostic, we are not treating symptoms, we are treating a patient. There is a whole being, soul, body, and we need to take that in account. So it's very important to see a patient as a whole being and consider so many other things that is not just about one organ or one symptom. In here, we see how the endocannabinoid system can balance and have properties as an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety, and it's a long list. Now we're going to the core of the lecture, basic concepts about the endocannabinoid system. This system is compounded by receptors. The receptors, the most well-known are CB1 and CB2 receptors and others, endogenous ligands. We also, besides the receptors, we have endocannabinoids that are produced by our own body, such as an anandamide and 2-AG. There is many other endocannabinoids that they have been discovered, but for a matter of time, we're not going to be able to discuss about all of them. We also have the enzymes. They are synthesizing the endocannabinoids, and the enzymes, they are degrading these cannabinoids, such as N-acetyl transferase and MAG monoamyl glycerase and the FAB. We actually have cannabinoid receptors. They are found almost in every cell in the human body, which means that every cell can receive an instruction through this endocannabinoid system. In here, I have a graphic that will show you how is the endocannabinoid system works. The main endocannabinoids are small molecule derived for the arachidonic acid, anandamide, and 2-AG. They bind to a family of G protein coupled receptors, of which the cannabinoid receptor is densely distributed in areas of the brain related to motor, control, cognition, emotional responses, motivated behavior, and homeostasis. Outside of the brain, the endocannabinoid system is one of the most crucial modulators of the autonomic nervous system, the immune system, and the microcirculation. The endocannabinoids are released on demand from lipid precursors. And they act in a manner that they serve as a retrograde signaling messengers at GABAergic and glutamatergic synapses, as well we see it in here in this graphic. The modulators of postsynaptic transmission interact with other neurotransmitters, including the dopamine. This is very important. In here we see how the production of the endocannabinoids is on demand. This is actually something very different than the way that the normal signaling appears. The endocannabinoids are not stored in vesicles. They are just released on demand, and they interact in the presynaptic neuron with the receptor CB1, CB2, and they produce all the cascade of the benefits that the patients can obtain. We have in here how the endocannabinoid system have affection in different areas. We have in the central nervous system, facilitates the generation of new neurons and involving neuroprotection. This is very, very important. And we see in here, for example, the big role that CBD plays, but we also have our own endocannabinoids that they can play that role of neuroprotectants. We see how they are important in the immune system regulator system, suppressing pro-inflammatory cytokine production. Talking about the cytokine production, we know that right now with the coronavirus, there has been a big amount of research doing in Israel and in Canada. They're trying to find if cannabinoids, specifically CBD and terpenes, are really good to reduce the cytokine storm or to do immunomodulation that we know that is what's causing the bad effects of the coronavirus. We still don't have results about this. I think time will tell, but the endocannabinoid system and the cannabinoids, they play a very important role in the as an immunomodulatories in the body. We have in here gastrointestinal system. They help protect the GI tract from inflammation and abnormally high gastric enteric secretions. They work on the metabolism and muscles and hormones and bones, and we see how they are widely distributed in all our body. So it's very important in here. I have a very detailed diagram. This lecture of endocannabinoid system we can take, I give it in a university for students of medicine and doctors. Then it can take like 3 to 4 hours. I will try to just to go fast through the most important topics. But it is very important to know that the endocannabinoids are transported into cells by a specific uptake system and degraded by two well-characterized enzymes, fatty acid amide hydrolase and monoacyl glycerol lipase. Recent pharmacological advances have led to the synthesis of cannabinoid receptor agonists and antagonists, anandamide uptake blockers, and potent selective inhibitors of endocannabinoid degradation. So we see in here how complex is the mechanism, how these endocannabinoids are produced, how they are regulated, how they are degraded. This is a fascinating topic. I love to talk about this about hours, but we cannot go into detail. In here, we know that the endocannabinoid system and the phytocannabinoids, such THC, CBN, they act in a manner as the manner the key acts in a lock. They fit perfectly and they exert their functions according of the way the CB1 or CB2 receptors are located. We are going to talk about the receptor CB1. They are expressed more densely in the brain. This is very important because we will see how we produce treatments for the patients, seeing which of the receptors are we targeting. These CB1 receptors are largely responsible for mediating the effects of cannabinoids binding in the brain. Cannabinoids that bind to CB1 receptors can decrease the release of glutamate or GABA. You know, the glutamate stimulates or excites the nervous system and GABA calms it. When glutamate levels are high, GABA levels are usually low and vice versa. In here, we know why all these treatments with cannabinoids can help with neurological disorders. This is a paper that talks exactly about that. It was published in 2018, and it talks about the cannabinoid receptors and the endocannabinoid system. We see in here how receptors CB1 and CB2 are located in the brain, spinal cord, and the CB2 and peripheral nerves. And we see we have CB2 receptors at skin. We also have at lungs, CB1 and CB2. And so, you know, we have the whole diagram. We're gonna go very fast through the CB1 receptor. I already told you that the endocannabinoid system produce endocannabinoids on demand. Then these endocannabinoids and phytocannabinoids, they interact with the receptors CB1 and produce the G proteins liberation and bind to the postsynaptic receptors, as we see here in this graphic. CB1 modulates pain through the dampening of the neuronal despolarization. Now we're going to talk about receptor CB2. Is more densely found in an immune system, but it's also expressed in neurons and in more limited amounts in the brain, gastrointestinal system, and peripheral nervous system. We have in here how it works, how is the receptor, and is primarily concentrated in peripheral tissues, microglia, oligodendrocytes, and astrocytes. I'm not going to go too detailed in that. This is another paper talking about the benefits of the CB2 receptors and the interactions, just for a reference. And we have in here how our body have distributed CB1, CB2 receptors and how it works in our body. It's very important to see that the endocannabinoid system, now there is a big word called endocannabidoidome, because it's the whole system that includes the enzymes degrading, synthesizing enzymes, endocannabinoids, and receptors. And when I talk about receptors, this is very important because everybody knows CB1 and CB2 receptors, but cannabinoids interact with a lot of different receptors. We have in here a few of them: TRVP, vanilloid receptors, 5-HT1A. So it's because of this that we can have so many interactions and so many benefits when we're using cannabinoids in different therapies. We're talking about the endocannabinoids. Anandamide is a member of the fatty acid amides family, binds to the CB1 receptors, and the 2-AG is member of the glycerol esters family. As I said, there's many other endocannabinoids, but these are the ones that we know more right now. As I said, Professor Lumir Hanus discovered the anandamide and named it anandamide, derived from the Sanskrit word ananda, which means happiness. The anandamide is broken down by the enzyme Fa, which is an enzyme that breaks down THC and anandamide too. We see that through this enzyme Fa, there are a lot of pharmaceutical developments, because if we block or reduce this degradation of anandamide, we can have more endocannabinoids circulating in our body and we can obtain benefits. The anandamide is a weak partial agonist of CB1 receptor and a weak agonist of CB2 receptors. We have in here how the anandamide is produced, and basically—
Sandra, sorry, you have 5 minutes left.
Okay, perfect. And basically we have all the different reactions for producing anandamide, and also how to produce the 2-AG, that is another endocannabinoid. We have in here the graphic and how is the production of these cannabinoids. And I was talking about the other receptors that interact. We have the GPRs, we have the TRP, GPR production. We have many other systems that interact with the cannabinoids. So it's very important when we are taking phytocannabinoids that we consider all the interaction. We see in here all the targets of the endocannabinoid system and all of the cannabinoids. We already talked about the degrading enzymes and how these enzymes are very important on development of different pharmaceutical grade medications to try to keep the endocannabinoid system in balance. We see in here the different receptors that I was talking before, and it's very important to know also that THC and CBD interact in a different manner and mimic what some of the endocannabinoids are doing in the body. It's very important to talk about the entourage effect. It was described by Professor Meshulam and means that it's not just isolate compound CBD and THC, it's the terpenoids and all the rest of the minor cannabinoids, the one who bring benefits for the patients. We have different publications in here. It's a very important theory. Dr. Ethan Russo talks about the clinical endocannabinoid deficiency. This is something very important because it states the patients with chronic pain states like fibromyalgia, irritable colon syndrome has the endocannabinoid tone in unbalance. And when we balance that endocannabinoid tone, we can help these patients. So last statement in here is we need to do more research. I think after the UN removing from Schedule 4 the cannabis, I think we will be seeing a massive release of scientific research, and more doctors and scientists are going to be able to do more research. There is foods that contain cannabinoids, so we can do it, and also to use some exercise, meditation. There's way that we can boost our own endocannabinoid system. As I said, this is a very fascinating subject that it could take too long time, but I think I just summarized in a very brief way what is the endocannabinoid system and how important it is to know about this in order to be able to apply cannabis medicine. So my last words are, we need to train doctors, healthcare practitioners, and all the people in the industry about medical cannabis, because through the education is that we can guarantee the patients can have safe access. Thank you so much.